know I love it.
Well, how is it going, guys? And welcome back to How to Invest in Commercial Real Estate. And we are back with another exciting episode. And today we have a guest with us, Dustin Heiner. Did I pronounce that correctly?
You sure did.
Dustin Heiner, and he has been investing in real estate for quite some time. And we thought we would have him on the podcast and kind of tell his story. I know Joel kind of says it best. Say what you kind of said earlier.
Okay, well, what we were, everybody gets to listen to us talk all the time, and they've heard some of our story of how we went from day jobs to retiring early or whatever it is. But Dustin's done that. He's doing some exciting things. He was able to retire early. And so we know the listeners want to hear his story on how he did it.
Awesome. Well, Dustin, let's kick it over to you. Introduce yourself. Tell us how you got started, and we'll go from there.
Yeah. Thank you so much, guys, for having me on the show. Yeah. I am a real estate investor. That's literally what I do. In fact, I was blessed to be able to quit my job, or I like the term successfully unemployed. Basically, I found a way to make money to provide for myself and my family without working that dead end job, or that just over broke job. And so I'll go to the end. So when I was 37 years old, I was blessed to be able to quit my job because I had enough rental properties, long-term buy and hold rental properties, and other investments that made me money and passive income every single month. Now, I didn't start out that way. In fact, I did start out with just like everybody else. We're all taught this same thing. We're taught to go to school and get good grades. This is the plan that we're all taught. Get good grades, and then you go to college or university and you get even more good grades and get in thousands and thousands of dollars into debt. And you get a piece of paper. It's called a degree, and you go to different companies. You try to get a quote unquote career there, and then work 40 plus years of your life, and then retire at 65, 70 years old and live on what you managed to save that entire time of working that just over broke job. Well, I'm doing that exact same thing. And I got actually one of the most stable, secure jobs I could ever think of. It was in California, working for the local county government, doing IT. So California's not going away. Government's definitely not going away. And same thing with IT. So I'm doing that. But at the same time, I've always been entrepreneurial in my life. So I had like a newspaper route. Not a lot of people know what newspaper routes are now, but I would ride on my bike and throw newspapers at 5 a.m. and bang them on garage doors, waking people up. I had a graphic website. I had a graphic website design company, skateboard manufacturing business, convenience store, and a pizzeria. Started those all from the ground up. And it wasn't enough to quit my job, but I had extra money coming in a little bit. And I bought one rental property at the time. This is 2006 when I first started investing. And I remember that check that I got from my property manager. So all the expenses subtracted out from the income, it was $317. And I thought, my goodness, I need to be an investor. This is amazing. But you know how it happens. Life started getting in the way. My wife and I started having children, and the career just kept on going. Now, here's what really catapulted me to be a real estate investor. So after my fourth child was born, I went on paternity leave. That's where the dad stays home with the mom, changes poopy diapers and all that good stuff, and bonds with the baby. And so I'm off for a couple of weeks, and then I go back to work. And in that week, I go back to work on a Friday at 3:30 in the afternoon. I get a call from my boss's secretary, like the top dog. And she says, "Dustin, would you please come to the office?" And I said, "Sure." And I hung up the phone, and I paused for a second. I thought, why in the world did they call me in the office? Like, this isn't normal. And I've seen plenty of movies. Friday at 3:30 is not a good time to get called to the main boss's office. And I started remembering a couple of months before I went on paternity leave, there were some rumors, there's some rumming going on. There could potentially be layoffs in the county. Well, I immediately shook that off. I said, there's no way that's for me. So I get up and I go down the hallway to my boss's office. And I get down this hallway, and it feels like the hallway gets longer and longer and longer because the weight of potentially losing my job is just weighing down on me. And I feel like they're lead bricks. Well, I get down the hallway and I turn the corner and I see my boss's door. His door's closed, and I see a secretary there. Super sweet, nice old lady. And she says, "Dustin, would you please have a seat?" And she's kind of sheepishly grinning at me, trying to console me with her eyes because she knows everything about what's going on. I know nothing about what's going on. So I go and I take my seat. And I start thinking about this life that this plan that people told me. Well, if I lose my job right now, did I just waste my life doing this? And then I realized, oh my goodness, if I don't have a job, how am I going to feed my family? Does that make me a failure as a father? Does that make me a failure as a man trying to provide for his family? Well, as I'm sitting there, my hands get all clammy. My forehead gets all sweaty because the nerves are just crushing out on me. Well, the door to my boss's office opens up, and out walks a lady, a coworker of mine, with a piece of paper in her hands. She's noticeably distraught, not necessarily crying, but her world has been rocked. And she passes by me, and my boss says, "Dustin, would you please come in the office?" So I get up and I go into his office and I get laid off. And this is the government, remember? Nobody gets fired or laid off from the government, but I did. And the reason why I tell this story is so that you can learn what I learned. So I took that layoff notice and I went back to my desk, just getting laid off. And I sat down and I realized two things. Number one, I need to get another job. I need to be able to provide for my family. So I was really blessed, praise the Lord, to find another job in the same county. A whole nother department wasn't having the issues. So check, I got that. Now, the second thing that everybody needs to realize, this is what I realized, was that I need to make sure that this never, ever happens to me again. I need to make sure that nobody has the ability to take away my ability to feed my family. So right then and there, I told myself, whenever anybody would ask me the question, everybody gets this question, what do you do? I would always reply, I work for the county. I do technology for the county. I'm projecting the value that I put on myself as coming from my job. No, my value doesn't come from my job. My value comes from my God, from myself, from my family. And so right then and there, I told myself every time I would always reply, I am an investor. Now, it may so happen that 100% of my money comes from my job. That's now my part-time job. I'm a full-time investor. So fast forward the story, I started buying property after property after property, each one making me a minimum of $250 a month in passive income. Eventually, I had 30 plus properties and I realized, why am I working here? I'm wasting my life here. So the last part of the story, I walked away from my job for the very last time. It's a 1.5 mile walk. I'm too frugal to pay for parking. We worked in downtown. I felt like I was walking on clouds because I knew I would never, ever need a job again. And everybody listening to this, you need to realize that you will never get paid what you're worth. In fact, your boss will never pay you what you are worth. And this is how you'll know this. Your boss is paying you just enough to keep you working without quitting, but not so much that takes money out of their pocket. If you got paid with what you're worth, they'd go broke. So instead, investing in real estate for me, or starting businesses, investing in commercial real estate, syndications, land events, if you start taking your life into your own hands so you become financially independent, then you're able to make sure that nobody's able to take your ability to feed your family. So I'll pause the story because you guys probably got plenty of questions.
No, that's great.
That's a great story.
So what you said, you bought your first house in 2006. And then you were able to retire, what year?
2017 is when I was finally able to retire. It's 2016 in December is when I was getting my layoff notice, but a couple of weeks, it was January 2017.
I love that because that's practical.
Yeah. And it's interesting. I mean, we might be the same age. The story is mirroring my own. I retired from my day job at 37, and I think it was in 2016. I started investing. I bought my first house, I believe, in 2003 or 4. So really, really similar. So you had your first house, but then you said that with the layoff that you got, it sparked you to buy more real estate. What was the plan? How did you go about acquiring more real estate? Because that's what people will be interested in. Hey, how did you go start buying all these houses?
That's a great question. And well, I'll tell you the wrong way that I did. And so in 2006, everybody has probably seen these. I was watching TV late at night. I didn't have anything other than a job and a couple other things going on, but I was watching TV late at night, and one of those late night infomercials came on. They said, hey, we're going to come to your town. We have a free 2-hour seminar to teach you about real estate. And I was so excited. I was like, that's great. Let me go ahead and do that. So I went to that 2-hour seminar. It was horrible. It was all hype, all sales pitch. And they said, now run to the back. And it's normally $50,000, but it's $1,000 today. So I was like, yeah, I ran to the back. I got a sucker for that. So I ran to the back, spent $1,000. There was a 2-day seminar, all more hype and more sales pitch for an $80,000 course, $100,000. It was bad, but I took what little they told me and I implemented that. And the sad thing is, my property manager started stealing from me within 6 months because they didn't really. My belief now is that they just regurgitated what other people say. Well, now I realized how to do it. What's the wrong way, which is what happened. And I'll quickly give you the wrong way, but I'll give you the right way of how I then scaled the business. Now, the wrong way, what the quote unquote gurus will tell you, is you find a property anywhere in the country. You run the numbers, which means you make sure your expenses are lower than your income from your rents by like $25. But remember, this is 2006. So it's saying, and you'll get appreciation, which is what you're investing for, which I'll pause this. I don't invest for appreciation. I am literally getting generational wealth. I will give these properties to my kids and I still make money. Like the homes I own since 2006, I still make money. In fact, they're making me $500, $600, $700 a month. Well, then they said, once you run the numbers, then you spend thousands of dollars to buy the property, then spend thousands of dollars to fix up the property, and then find a tenant, and then try to find a property manager after you're all done. Well, I did that, and my property manager started stealing from me because I didn't do it the right way. In my opinion, that's just about backwards. Let me quickly give you the right way and show you how I scaled it, because from that one property to eventually getting 30 plus properties before I quit, I had to scale it fast because I wanted to get out of that job. So here's what I did. I realized that it takes not a property that is your business, which is what the gurus will tell you. It's your business owns inventory. So here's what it looks like. If you're going to start a convenience store, convenience store, candy bars and soda machines and all the good stuff. Well, you're not going to sign a lease on the locations, open the door and set a box of candy bars in there on the ground. No, you wouldn't do that. You go out of business in 2 seconds. What you would do though, is you would build the business first. You get the gondolas, those are the shelving units that all the candy bars go on, the cold storage, the countertops, the bank accounts, cash registers, insurance, employees, everything in the business before you buy any inventory. Same thing with real estate investing, all types of real estate investing. We build the entire business first, and then we buy a property, and that property is our inventory. And that's how we put it into our business. Now, what I did was, once I figured out the wrong way, I started implementing, because remember, I've always been entrepreneurial. I said, let me approach this from a business mindset. If I would have hung my head and said, oh, this doesn't work, I would not be here today. But I realized it does work. I just need to figure it out. So what I did was, created an entire business, had experts on the ground. I invest all over the country. I invest out of state. I love investing out of state, but I have experts on the ground. Zillow's not an expert. Redfin, Trulia, those are not experts. Who are the experts? It's the property managers, the contractors, the roofers, the plumbers, the handyman, the realtors, and everybody in the business before you buy any properties. Once you have the business built, they are going to help you to make sure you do it right. And that's how you scale the business, is you then just buy the next piece of inventory and put it into your business. Does that all make sense?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, do you focus on like a few key cities? Because obviously you can't have all of those people as part of your business, but they're advisors in a particular market that you say you're going to maybe go after?
Love it. Yeah, absolutely. So every city that I invest in, I think I'm in 5 cities now personally, and all my students that I coach, we're all over the country. But what we do is every city they go to, it's almost more like every county. So usually one property manager will, cover the entire county, but it just depends on the area. So let's say, and remember, we're starting a business. You would not start a business that you could not buy any inventory for. What you would do though, is you'd make sure there's inventory. So what I do, every city that I go into, I make sure that there's good inventory, the types of homes that I want to buy. And here's my suggestion. Cookie cutter type homes. These are homes that everybody either wants to rent or buy. 3-bedroom, two bath, 1,200 square feet to 1,700 square feet. Not too small that families don't want to live there. Not too big that there's extra walls to paint and carpet and everything like that. But we make sure that there's inventory in that city. From that, we make sure that we're going to make, and here's my suggestion. This is how I was able to scale my business to quit my job. I try to make sure that I'm always making $250 or more in passive income from every single property. And in doing that, once I have the inventory, then I build the business. So I have all the people on the ground running the business. And here's an example how you would know you have right people. So let's say you do all the wrong ways as the gurus tell you. Eventually the last step is finding a property manager. And I kid you not, this happens all the time. I talk to investors, say, I did that, and I tried to call property managers, and the property manager would say, I won't manage that property because I'll get shot there. Well, you no longer have an asset, you have a liability. So what we do is, instead of calling up property managers first or last and say, I have this property, would you manage it? I've already spent thousands of dollars. Instead, you say, property manager, I'm looking to buy this property. Tell me about it. Will you manage the property? How much will it rent for? What's the vacancy factor? What type of clientele would I have? Tell me more about the property. A good property manager will say, oh, I know that area. In fact, I have a house 2 blocks away. We were trying to get $1,400 for. Zillow said $1,400. We couldn't get that. We could only get $1,300. That's expert information. So that's what I do. Every single city that I go to and invest, to get back to answer your question, I build an entire business in that city of all the people that need to run my business. And what I do then is I give them systems and procedures and processes so that they run the business. I don't do anything in my business. In fact, I maybe work 30 minutes a month on all my properties. I just grab my property management statements, make sure everything looks good, and then put it aside.
That's excellent.
So you have people in these cities that you've chosen, and you have property managers already established there. You have people who are finding the properties for you then, and then they sort of analyze them for you, and then they ask you, okay, is this one you want? Is this a home you want to buy?
So I have, and a great question, because as investors, there's no one way to really do anything. And so finding properties, I don't want to find properties. I don't want to go, like you're saying, I don't want to go out and hunt for properties. I have realtors, wholesalers, other investors, even property managers sending me deals, land or title companies. I let everybody know. Remember, at the very beginning, I started telling everybody I'm an investor. So I tell everybody that I'm an investor. So all these deals come to me. Now, I have, as best I could, just made it so simple in my business. And it usually takes me about a minute to do all the analysis on a property to know how much I can pay for it and how much passive income I'm going to make and all that sort of stuff. But I have all these deals come to me because think of it like a tool belt. I have lots and lots of ways, lots of tools of ways that properties come to me from, like I said, realtors, wholesalers, other investors, all run the gamut. So I try to do as little work as possible and have other people do the work. I love wholesalers. Wholesalers are fantastic. They work their tail off and they make sure that I get what I need. If they don't have what I need, then I don't buy from them, but I buy from the companies, the people that actually can make me money in passive income. I don't mind giving them, commission or anything like that. But yes, I try to find lots of people to send me deals.
So I love this because it should sound overwhelmingly familiar to everything we've talked about on the podcast. What I was thinking. Yep. There's so many people in Tulsa that come up and approach us and say, how are you guys buying things in Ohio? Or how do you even buy a deal in Vegas? Or how are you building this deal in Dallas or something like that? And Dustin said it absolutely perfectly. And I love that it transfers over asset classes because that's the same for a house. It's the same for an apartment complex. It's the same for a shopping center. It's the same for any piece of real estate or almost any business. We're identifying markets and we're getting our inbox and our email and getting all of these deals sent to us, right? Exactly like you're talking about. People know we are buyers in that market. They're finding them, they're sourcing them. We plug it into a model and then we can go and deploy that amount of money because we built our business, like you're saying. We went and got a local leasing agent. We went and interviewed property managers. Yeah. Exactly. And then
very similar.
Like you said, we end up it's a little more intensive. We handle lease renewals and some of the other things with the properties. But at the end of the day, you really are just opening a monthly report and seeing, okay, it's a variance report. We set a budget. Here's where it should operate. Here's where it's normally going to operate. So you're looking at variances. And then most of the time, if you bought good, things are pretty steady. Right.
Yeah. Dustin, is it all single family?
So my bread and butter is single family. So residential, when I call single family, it's residential, 4 units and below. That's my bread and butter. I literally do it in my sleep. I literally dream. I'm like, oh, I just bought a house. Oh, wait, I woke up. So I do it all the time and I coach that. But I also, because of my bread and butter, I'm blessed to have lots of cash coming in from all my properties. And so now I take that and invest in apartment complexes. I recently just got into hotels, which is a lot of fun. Playing Monopoly as a kid, I'm like, oh, now I get into hotels. Yeah. So I love all asset classes. And here's the great thing. Like I specialize in residential, 4 units and below all over the country. But there are other awesome people that, let's say, commercial buildings or multifamily or land investing or storage units. They're awesome people. And it doesn't have to be where I win and you lose or somebody else loses. We can all help each other out. And so what I love to do is now, not want to say partner, but work with other awesome investors to help them and they help me. And so I love all types of asset classes.
Yeah, excellent.
So tell us a little bit about your equity structure. We talk a lot about raising money and how we raise money and just forming that entity and how to set up your offering, how to set up your returns. Are you currently doing any sort of syndications or taking on limited partners, or are you just using your own money to source and fund all of these deals?
Usually it's my own money, but at the same time, as deals come up, I would do some sort of a syndication, not necessarily a full syndication like you see with multifamily, 200, 300 unit apartment complexes where the goal is to get out in 3 to 5 years. No, my goal is to then get into a property with my investors. I got a laundry list of investors. I've been telling everybody for many years that I'm an investor. So everybody wants to, they say, hey, I would like to invest with you. But what I would do is buy the property and then use it at, like, let's say syndicate, but bring all that money together. And then in 3 to 5 years, refinance and pay them off so that I would then own it outright. Now, all the residential, literally all mine. It's so simple. And meaning all my money to buy these, because residential 4 units and below, it's really not that hard. There's great financing options. But here's another thing. I've literally used creative financing, and I counted 15 different ways to get financing to buy these properties that I don't really necessarily need, anybody else's money. I could just borrow it on a loan, private money, commercial loans to home equity loans, all these sort of things. These are all just tools that we use to get whatever deal is in front of us to take that deal down. And so because of that, I just have lots of tools to make sure, hey, here's a deal that came in from somebody. Can I buy it, or does it fit my criteria? And then what type of funding can I put into that property?
I love that. So I have one last talking point here. I see you have a note on starting online businesses, and I've heard you throughout the entire interview kind of refer to your students and some of your coaching. Briefly kind of walk us through how you got into that and what that looks like now, and kind of what you're offering, and then we'll probably close it out.
Yeah, that's so much fun. So here's the great thing. If everybody realizes, if you're listening to this and you realize how much your boss is not paying you, number one, you're not getting paid for your value, but at the same time, how much time you're giving to somebody else, another organization or something else, that's 40 plus hours of your life back. When I was, and getting to your question, absolutely, I was quitting my job, and I was telling people, hey, I'm about to quit. I'll quit in like 6 months. And they said, well, what are you going to do? And I said, well, I don't have to do anything. I own real estate. And the second question always came so fast. Well, can you show me? I'm like, yeah, sure. Friends and family members and coworkers and stuff. And so I'd be teaching them, and I realized I enjoyed it. The second thing I realized, it was really, really hard teaching them one-on-one. It took a lot of time. So what I did was I wrote a book. I said, here's my outline of what I do in my business. I'll just give it to you. And then when you're ready, we'll have better questions that fit you. So fast forward from there, I realized I enjoyed it. Then I had 40 plus hours of my life back. And I realized, man, I really want to be able to help more people. So I started a podcast, started a YouTube channel, coaching and courses. And now I even started a conference. I have a conference called the Real Estate Wealth Builders Conference. All types of investing, from syndications to commercials to land investing, storage units, all that good stuff. But this conference now is basically my entire audience. I'm bringing at least 100 people from my audience, but I have 43 other speakers that are friends of mine that have their own podcasts, their own students and everything, just like me. And we're all coming together to help more people out. But that's what I love, is that when you have your life back, 40 plus hours of your life back, you can build businesses, get investments, and then I love to look at generational wealth. Like, you can't give your job to your kids. You can't do that. But what you can do, build businesses, buy real estate, buy precious metal, buy things that are tangible to then pass them down to your kids. And it just keeps making money over and over. Same thing with online businesses. All my online businesses, I do literally have my kids work into my business. In fact, my daughter, she's 14, my oldest daughter, she's 14. I have a podcast, my own podcast called Master Passive Income. She edits it. I have her edit. I pay her money to edit the episodes. So that's the thing I love to be able to do. Bring my kids in. I have more time to spend with them because now I have the money. There's 4 things that we should strive to leave in our life or have in our life. The legacy of money, so we can buy whatever we want. Then that leads into the legacy of time, so we can do whatever we want with our time. That legacy leads into the relationship legacy. I'm blessed to have got 3. So the relationship, I now have more time to develop into my family. The last one, where I'm at now, is the service legacy. Everybody should strive to get to the service legacy, because I found the more people that I help invest to have great properties to rent, or even just coaching them, whatever it might be, the better my life gets and the better their lives get. And the great thing about this is I'm now seeing my students. I think I've got like thousands of students now, but I'm seeing my students retire. It took me about 10 years to retire and become successful employed. They're doing it like 2 or 3 years, because they're seeing what I've done, and I'm helping them skip over the problems that the loss of money and all that sort of stuff. Sure. And now they're being successful. So imagine 40 plus hours of your life back developing to yourself and your own businesses.
Guys, Successfully Unemployed, go check him out, get his book. It's so good to hear other success stories. Each time you hear a success story, you have something to rely on in your brain. It goes to work on, how do I solve my problem of becoming financially independent? And great examples like Dustin's will help you.
Dustin, thank you so much for coming on the show today, man.
Yeah, congrats on the success for sure.
Thanks, guys. Hey, I do have a free course I just love to give out, just get people started. You mind if I share that with everybody?
Yeah,
absolutely. Yeah.
Awesome. So I have a free course, literally walk you through everything, the blueprint of everything, and people have actually invested with just that. If you text the word rental, you're already on your phone, listen to this, text the word rental, RENTAL to 33777. 7. Very simple. Rental to 33777. I'll give it to you. Show you how to find an area in the country, anywhere to invest, how to build the business, how to scale the business to quit your job. You can even go to masterpassiveincome.com/free course. All one word, /free course. I'll give it to you. You can even find me on my podcast, the Master Passive Income Podcast. It's really a solo show. I just give out all this content, just try to give it out for free. But then also, if you want to find me on Instagram, I like Instagram. So you can DM me on there. I'm the Dustin Heiner. So THE Dustin Heiner. And guys, I'm not that arrogant. It's the only handle I could come up with. But find me on the Dustin Heiner. And I love helping people out.
Awesome, man. That's great.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Dustin. And everyone else, we will catch you next week on how to invest in commercial real estate.